Oh, is that? Oh,
Oh, no.
Well,
No.
I hope this isn't the whole episode.
Oh, my God. Disgusting. Something
God.
Blue Chew. Well, somehow this is not gross compared to the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I know. It's a photocopy.
High res. Looks like you got that at the Kinko's at least, or FedEx.
We do have sex. Oh, God.
I feel like I can really relate to this guy. This is me every time I'm hanging out with my friends. I do have sex, I promise.
Welcome back to New Rockstars, Rick and Morty Season 5, Episode 4. Seriously just spent an entire episode explaining that there's no shame in the game, boys, as if the Rick and Morty fan base needed any encouragement. But were we stuck in this gross episode because Rick lost his portal gun earlier this season? Well, we say this every week, but Tommy, I think it's really needed right now.
Yeah.
What the
Ugh.
This is Ricksplained, our Rick and Morty after show where we go 1 week exploring the existential parallels between a teen romance and environmentalism just to see our thoughtfulness blow up in our faces with an episode about sperm monsters and incest babies.
Oh my God.
I'm Erik Voss. My Easter egg breakdown of all the details you might have missed because you were so grossed out, that breakdown's coming tomorrow. But here, I'm with a very, very responsible chud father, Tommy Bechtold.
I would never. Hello, Erik. You work so hard, and I don't envy the fact that you have to do an Easter egg breakdown video of this. Oh my God.
I will do every one. I am committed. I will see this through.
Oh my God, you poor dear.
Frame by frame.
Great to be here as always anyway. You know me, I love Rick and Morty. If you don't love Rick and Morty at its cum, you don't get to love Rick and Morty at its, I don't know. Pick your favorite Rick and Morty episode and insert it here. You don't get to enjoy Mr. Nimbus if you don't get to enjoy, if you can't enjoy Morty's giant mutated monster sperm.
I want to talk later in this episode about like where fans draw the line and why they draw the line there, because I do think a line was crossed for sure.
Yeah.
I think we could all agree that this was not a Rick and Morty episode that we would recommend to people who've never seen an episode before. You don't want to start with this one.
Yeah. I mean, I think about so my mom was an elementary school teacher, and I don't know how interesting this is, so editors cut this out if this is an interesting anecdote. But my mom was an elementary school teacher, and one of the custodians at her school was a Rick and Morty super fan. So he would always try and get my mom, a kindergarten teacher, to watch Rick and Morty. And I can't imagine if this had been the week that she had finally been like, you know what? I'm going to check this show out. Like, on so many levels. Because I've also, when she told me that this had been recommended, I'm like, oh, you might like it. It's really smart, but I don't know. I don't think this one was made for moms or grandmoms. Or dads or granddads or anyone. I don't think this was made for anyone.
Maybe a very specific subset of Pornhub users.
Yes.
But I think every season, it seems, has a real gross out episode like this. Like season 3 had that Fruity Land episode that I recently rewatched because the writer of it wrote that amazing recent episode of Loki. But it was kind of gross, some of the subject matter. Season 4 had the slut dragons. Remember the slut dragons?
Yeah.
Pretty gross.
Yeah.
But neither of those compare to this one. This was pretty messed up. And I kept wishing Rick would have pulled out his portal gun to escape this gross reality, but then I realized he has not used it once this season.
Right.
And I think, we can figure out why. But first, Tommy, let's just break down what happened this episode.
Okay, and like any good Blue Man Group concert, I do recommend wearing some sort of poncho for this description, because you might get some things on you don't want. Morty mounts a horse semen extractor, which is a sentence I prayed I would never say, in Beth's clinic. Rick tries to use the material to create a bioweapon to fight the Chud horse people. But Morty's genetic, which was what? Cannibalistic horses under something?
Well, in the movie, it's cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, but they just made it horse instead of human, which...
But Morty's genetic material creates giant sperm monsters. Out of shame, Morty refuses to own up to that fact. The president then recruits them on a mission to lure the monsters to the Grand Canyon and nuke them. Perfect. I actually think one of the more genius plans a president of the United States has ever had. But the monsters fight back and kill their team of Marines. Morty befriends a young monster and names him Sticky because, of course, why would it not be the grossest thing? I mean, I guess Moist would be the only worse name.
Yeah. Oh, God.
The sperm queen plans to use the machine and Morty, because the machine doesn't work without Morty, to make an army. Meanwhile, the president uses one of Summer's eggs, which is when the episode really lost me, on the Vegas Strip to lure the sperm. The Chud horse people kidnap Rick and Morty, but Rick, having mated with the princess, allows him to form an alliance with the Chud horses to fight back against the sperm monsters. So, obviously, again, I'm saying a lot of things that only Rick and Morty would cause me to say out loud. Sticky then impregnates Summer's egg, and the embryo is sent to space, where in the post-credit scene, the giant incest baby kills an astronaut, and
I'm sorry, Tommy. I'm sorry you had to read that, because you just like putting it in simple description terms just makes the episode even more horrifying.
I'm squirming. Not squirming sounds like an even gross to say. Ugh.
Yeah, everything just sounds gross now in this context. But I'm determined to find some, not necessarily deeper meaning, because I think it was clear, but just to help us all process what just happened so we can move on. But before we talk more about this, if you want to help us make more great content at New Rockstars, like Ricksplained, one of the best ways you can support us is to check out our merch at newrockstarsmerch.com. We got some brand new Black Widow inspired designs in the shop, including our latest obsession, the Red Deep design, and some fun Russian nesting doll designs. And of course, we have our Loki designs, Loki Out of Time. We have a new Gator Loki polo.
Oh, I need that.
Yeah, there's some great stuff that you can go get at newrockstarsmerch.com, and it supports this channel. But what's our first question here, Tommy, that we should really talk about?
Where is Rick's portal gun, and why hasn't he used it this season?
Yeah, we kind of wish he had it this episode, right?
Yeah.
Because I found it interesting. So far, this seems like the first season in which Rick has not used his portal gun once in the first 4 episodes. Like, and 501 is when he lost it. He used a different kind of portal at first to open that Narnia pocket reality, but then he lost the portal gun in there. And then 502, we interestingly explored the infinite Rick decoys within one reality, but not across multiple realities. 503, Rick embraced apocalypses on different planets. And that one sighting of the portal gun was right when Rick was facing the cyberpunk birds of the Narnia reality, and then all of his implants got sucked away, but along with them was his portal gun, and he has not used it since, so he might have lost it, and Rick might be stuck in this gross reality. And that might explain some of the really weird stuff we've seen, from his fixation on decoys, his heightened nihilism, and now in this episode, when that Chud princess Ponyta reveals that he fathered her child, he admits, I have a substance abuse problem.
Yes.
Which actually, that was one of the really funny lines this episode.
Yes.
And this isn't the first time the show has acknowledged a lack of a portal gun dilemma. Remember 301, that's when Rick was imprisoned by the Federation and Morty needed another portal gun, so he dug up Rick's corpse in the backyard, from when they had to bury their corpses there for after Rick Potion number 9. So that has been the one he's been using. And that one's now gone as well. Now, just a quick acknowledgement. At some point, Dan Harmon has said not every episode takes place in the same continuity, that Rick and Morty's just kind of a chaotic show. We might be seeing a different universe each time we see an episode, but there has been enough animation evidence to show that there is some continuity on this series. So, like, when you see... anytime you see the graves in the backyard, you know this is in the post-Rick Potion number 9 universe, right? When characters get called back, like Clone Beth or Bird Person or Tammy or Evil Morty, that implies some continuity on the series. And that tells us that this wasn't just like a bottle episode that was unaffected by everything else that came before or after it. And I think right now we are seeing same continuity across these 4 episodes, just by him not having the portal gun. Now, we could be wrong, of course. Like, maybe next episode, they could just show that this was never the case and Rick uses his portal gun, or like some alternate reality Rick could show up and then Rick could steal his portal gun. But I just think whatever is the case, for these 4 episodes, it's just interesting how the writers have given themselves this challenge to stick Rick and Morty in situations that cannot be solved by Rick just portaling away from the universe and starting over.
Right.
And I kind of think a bit of continuity could be a good thing if it challenges the writers to give themselves rules that they got to play by. Now, in this case, it seems like the episode did not have much discipline to it at all. But Tommy, I want to ask you, do you think Rick and Morty is a better show when there is some continuity that it holds itself to? Or is it just more fun when it's like interdimensional cable and it's just truly randomized and chaotic?
Well, I think it's a kind of 2 separate things to me, like a better show and more fun. I think I liken it to like The Simpsons. I watched the first episode of The Simpsons as a kid, and that is like, like in real time.
Wow.
Like, I was like 6 years old when the first episode aired or something like that. So I remember my parents sitting us down and Simpsons being must-see TV. But I think the reason over time that a lot of people my age kind of let The Simpsons go, and like they come back to it every now and then, but they're not like religious Simpsons watchers, is that there is like little bits of continuity and there are little things that become canon in the world, but it kind of resets every decade to be that decade. Like no one ages, and not that people are aging on Rick and Morty, but I think when you have no linear story continuity. I mean, some characters in The Simpsons die and stay dead, and some characters come out of the closet and stay part of the LGBT community plus, or I just think it's hard to latch onto a show with any sort of permanent, like, to really give a shit about it unless there's genuine continuity in it, because otherwise it's just kind of it's just anarchy. It's like it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters, and I know this is a cartoon, but it's a fun cartoon that's really smart and really deep and emotionally rich. So it's like, I want continuity in it because I want to care about the characters and not just be like, oh well, whatever. If Beth gets sawed in half by a monster sperm, it doesn't matter because she'll be back next week, fit as a fiddle. So I guess for me, my cranky old man, rant is that I want continuity.
Yeah, I think shows do still have to strike that balance of evolving with their audience's tastes a little bit. And like, I think this episode seems like the writers saying, well, we still want to be able to do this kind of humor. And I would say they do, and they still have. Every episode this season, at least, has had some jokes in it where I was like, whoa, okay, right, this is a swim. I guess the censor rules are different when it's not like network prime time Sunday night. They can do when it's like 11 p.m. Eastern time. You can kind of go a little extreme. But like one thing that Rick and Morty tends to do really well is either like smart concepts in a really dumb way or dumb concepts in a really smart way. Like you can do really gross things, but it has to it can't just go down that rabbit hole of just getting grosser and grosser. It has to kind of critique them, And I kept waiting this episode for that critique to happen. Or for they were clearly aware of how gross this was. But the story never course corrected for that. It just stayed in it. And I think that's where a lot of people are left. They're like, oh, all right, well, there's always next week.
For sure. I mean, there was still lots of really funny parts in this episode. It's just, you're right. Usually there becomes a level of self-awareness of like, wow, even for this show, this has become disgusting beyond like what we're used to. And it just never happened. They were like, nope, we're gonna inseminate this egg that these are brother and sister mutated.
I have to ask, this is not the first time on Rick and Morty that they've kind of joked about incest as being a kink. And we do not kink shame here, right?
No,
whatever you're into, no judgment there. But,
within the laws of the legal system.
Right, exactly. And moral and ethical things, right? The show seems to be, I don't think they have these weird fetishes that they're trying to indoctrinate us with, but I think they are trying to outsmart the viewing audience. Because And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm not saying I'm into this, but there are statistics to show when you go on like Pornhub and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Incest is a weirdly not popular category, but like more popular than you think. Like people are into it. And I think that makes the writers laugh. I think they find that really funny.
Yeah.
And when you look at shows like Game of Thrones, how it normalized incest
Well,
in a really gross way. You know, like not just Jamie and Cersei, but by the end, Jon and Dany, like the fact that people were shipping them and the show did not seem to be saying anything was wrong with their romance. Like they're very closely related to each other. Nephew and aunt. Yeah. So I think that's like, this is the writers of the show being like, some of you are into this, so let's make fun of that. But I think for everyone reacting, no one's going to admit to being into that. Everyone is either going to be legitimately grossed out or pretend to be grossed out. So I don't know anyone who's going to be like, yes, finally
an episode for me.
So I don't know. That's my defense of like, I'm just trying to imagine what's going on in the writer's room when episodes like this happen. Like someone is like laughing about this. And they must see some kind of humor there. And I think like once you do get too far down the like the hat on a hat, like just joking things, and you've joked about every possible thing that all your dry erase boards are full. Kind of sometimes a gross idea like that wins out and just cracks up the room in a way that like it might not crack up everyone else.
Well, Erik, you know from sketch comedy and that we've both done sketch comedy before. It's like, there are plenty of premises that you come up with your friends and your sketch teammates that you are dying in the writers' meeting and like, this is gonna kill. This is so funny. And then you write it and you do it and the audience does not latch onto it at all. It's too gross or too esoteric or too whatever. It's like, you can, when you're in something as insulated as I assume, a writer's room on a show like Rick and Morty is, it's like, they probably laughed about it for like 5 days together and we're like, this is going to be so great. Everybody's going to love this. And you know what? We're just two people. Maybe, and there has been a pretty strong reaction to it online, but like, there might be a lot of people that like loved this episode.
I think so. I just think reactions are more mixed than usual. And I think they probably knew that this is going to be a divisive episode too. It's kind of like, because Tommy and I performed at IO Improv Olympics Los Angeles Theater together. And that has like a certain, or at least for a period, had a certain prestige. Like you didn't feel like you could just like put up any kind of experimental nonsense that you wanted on that stage because like you had to audition for your spot, you had to earn it, and you had to beat out other people to get a spot. Phrasing. But there are other stages in LA that are more experimental. And like over a certain time, at least Sketch Night at IO did start to get more experimental where it's like no one really important is going to be in the audience here other than the other team who performed that night. So like, I'm just going to put up whatever. And then you'd get in these debates with your teammates where someone on the team was like, we can't do that sketch. It's disgusting or it's offensive. And then you'd be like, it's not offensive, whatever. And they're like, well, and if the audience doesn't laugh on it, I don't care because I'm an artist. And you start, and I wonder if like there's a bit of that. I think the Rick and Morty writers are all professionals. They're getting paid, I think they hold themselves to a very high standard, but like when you have like 70 episodes approved after season 3 or whatever it was, I wonder if they're like, well, we gotta do an episode about something, so this works. But then again, it's also really early.
Or they just wanted to do a dumb cum joke,
like, I'm not gonna criticize that much. I'm just saying like there's no way of knowing, really. I just think,
and it just was such a weird episode after the first 3 that we've gotten. It was such a. I mean, this show has a tendency to do that, to subvert expectations. But man, it was just like, well, I was like, I wonder what crazy, thing I would have never thought of. We're gonna see this week, and boy, is that a be careful what you wish for. Statement. Wished like, boy, did my monkey paw close one finger after that. Like, I want something I've never thought of on Rick and Morty.
Agreed. Yeah. All right. So let's thank some people who helped us make this episode. There are only 2 FDA-approved medications that can prevent hair loss, and our friends at Keeps offer both. More than 50 million men in the U.S. suffer from male pattern baldness, and if you're one of those, Keeps can help. Thank you to Keeps for sponsoring this episode. Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. Convenient virtual doctor consultations and medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months. You don't even have to leave your home. The treatments start at just $10 $10 per month, and Keeps offers generic versions of those FDA-approved medications, which ship in discreet packaging. Keeps has a proven track record of performance, and they have more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is key with hair loss. Treatments can take 4 to 6 months to see results, so you should act fast and get on this now. And if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Ricksplained to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's keeps.com/Ricksplained to get your first month for free. keeps.com/Ricksplained. Oh, and fitting for this episode, thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring this episode. Our friends at Blue Chew have a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew is an online prescription service, so no doctor's office or pharmacy trips. It ships right to your door in a discreet package. You sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you receive your prescription within days. Their licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength. And if you hate swallowing pills, good news, Blue Chew is chewable, just like it says in the name. So if you could benefit from some extra confidence when it's time to perform, visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we've got a special deal for our audience. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code Ricksplained at checkout. Just pay the $5 in shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code Ricksplained to receive your first month for free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the show. And the show is also sponsored by BetterHelp. Is there something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Well, we've all been there at some point. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. Start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line or self-help. It is professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available for clients worldwide. Log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room or look for parking, because BetterHelp makes it easy and free to change counselors if you need to. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. Visit betterhelp.com/Ricksplained. That's better, H-E-L-P, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. So special offer for Ricksplained audience, you get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Ricksplained. All right, back to this episode. So Tommy, I wanted to ask you, do you think in fans' eyes watching this who might have been uncomfortable with the subject matter, do you think a contextual switch, like a switcheroo, some kind of twist, might have saved the episode in some of their eyes, like how we saw in the Vat of Acid episode or the Story Train episode? At some point, Rick reveals that all this stuff was like an extreme lesson that he's teaching Morty. Or do you think just the moment giant sperm started attacking the world, some people were just done?
Yeah, I don't know, because I think that to abandon that would have kind of just been even more, what was the point of all that? You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say like they had to see it through to completion, but it was like, I don't know that there, like, what would the lesson have been? The only thing I can think of is that like there could have been a reveal that every single, prominent male character on the show had been using that horse machine. So there was no clear who the father was, and like it ended up in like a Maury Povich, where it's like it's like Jerry, Rick, and Morty are all potentially the father. But I don't know that could have worked for this. I don't see it. I wish I was creative enough, but if I was, I'd probably have a writing job. So my answer is I'm not smart enough to answer that question.
Yeah, I think like kind of there's some subjects, once you start there, you got to stay in it, and it's kind of hard. No matter what, everything you do in it is going to feel tainted by it, no matter how smart you try to make it. So maybe that's why they just felt like, then let's just do the version of this we want,
You can't put the jizz back. You know what I mean? Like, it's out there. The sperm is out, and it's like, you can't be like, yeah, this was all an elaborate ruse to teach you to not mess with my horse.
Yeah, but I think that's the challenge. They're like, can we do a version of a stupid, ejaculation joke, and try to get as good of an episode as we're normally able to get? And I respect that challenge, at least,
Absolutely. I mean, I guess they could have maybe turned it more into a commentary of the age-old, like, culturally male thing of volunteering because there's something sexual that you want, like whether it's like the hot girl who also volunteers, or like, like volunteering to appear to be a better person, but in the end, you're just using the horse sex machine. So
Yeah.
I guess there could have been more commentary on that, but that might be a little too sad. So
Yeah, I think they did try to provide that commentary in the B plot with Summer and Beth, like just they weren't being listened to. The scientists like heated Summer and took her idea. I just wish that it didn't have to be Summer's egg, like that was a step too far, I think, for me. Like I honestly was okay with a cum joke of the episode. It was once it reached there, I'm like, well, then I cannot defend this.
yeah.
Well, speaking of, this genetic material, this giant incest baby, do we think this villain could return, or are we done with it? Like, could you imagine the Vindicators and Planetina taking this thing down? And if not, I just want to know, how could this thing breathe in space?
I thought the same thing. I'm like, what is? I'm sure there'll be an explanation, but oh my god, I don't want it to return. I'm sorry. I don't. I just.
Yeah, me neither.
There's a lot of really. I don't mean to be too woke or sensitive, but there's a lot of real, genuine victims of incest that like this is just like, I mean, a horrific, giant comedic, kind of you too. And I don't think that they did that on purpose. Obviously, when you're making comedy, you have a chance to offend everyone, as we know. So, okay, you got it in the post-credit scene. Can this just never come back? I wish, as a fan, just speaking purely, genuinely as a fan, I would like it to never come back.
Yeah, I'd sooner see the giant, homeless corpse from the Anatomy Park episode floating around in space. I do like this idea of just like it's space's problem now and just blasting stuff off to space, and then that stuff just being in the background of stuff orbiting around, crashing into planets and stuff. I think it's funny as a world building concept for sure. But we're on the same page. But next question. What'd you make of this episode's references to the Marvel films? Like Morty and Beth are seeing what Beth called a shitty Marvel movie, and then Rick brings up Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s past.
In the 90s, that guy was sleeping in bushes.
I did like that a lot.
Yeah. I thought, I think it's just it's the writers screwing with each other. A lot of the old writers have gone on to work for Marvel properties. Current writers on the show, Jeff Loveness is writing Ant-Man 3, so it's like, I think it's maybe just like a fun nod to each other, and it's a great mom joke to be like, I don't get this world. So.
Right. Yeah, I think I love it as a line coming from Beth. Like Morty is still into seeing it, like he's still dying to see it. Like that just says something. Like Morty is a pretty sophisticated, thinker. Like, but they still give these things to make him a kid, and the fact that he still just really wants to watch it, and Beth's just being like, no, it's not for me. I don't understand why you're so crazy about it.
Right.
But I do love anytime Rick and Morty references the MCU or the Marvel world, because it is like one piece of pop culture that is more popular than Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty's insanely popular, but like they'll never be as popular as the MCU. And the fact that all their writers keep going to write MCU projects, I think has got to just be like, all right, but you're getting your gig to write a Marvel thing. Is that as challenging as writing one of our sophisticated,
playing with our rules of time and physics, but
then having a jizz episode.
Yeah, right. And then having it culminate in semen. Yeah. But I think also, I think Marvel is smart to hire these writers because the thing about Rick and Morty that we maybe didn't get in this episode is like it can be disgusting and it can also break your heart in the same episode. So it's like to have that, and it can be smart and fun. It can be all of these things. Get you a cartoon show that can do both. They're all six. They're all those things. And I think that's what makes those writers such desirable hires once they're not working for the show anymore. Is like to have that skill set is really powerful. So.
Right, they're very they got a lot of skills. They have a lot of discipline, and just talking with people like you are friends with a lot of these writers. We've met people like Ryan Ridley, and just to talk shop with them for a bit, they all kind of understand like, well, I've given notes on scripts and screenplays before, and like a lot of the scripts out there don't have. They'll call it like a curve or a bend to it. Like it needs to at some point the character needs to achieve their goals, and then those goals need to be proven flawed in a way, so then the character truly grows and changes. And like 90% of the movies we watch do not have true character growth. Or they truly do not go on a journey. They just travel places and they do things and they blow stuff up, but we don't learn anything about them or about human nature. And, not every Rick and Morty episode hits this, but the majority of them do. Like, surprisingly, a show that seems to resist change, within the course of an episode, you do see character change. And sometimes characters are punished for changing. But that's why I love continuity. Just a bit of continuity on Rick and Morty is this season you have seen Morty and Rick not have the same relationship that they've had in previous seasons. And I think there has been some character growth by Morty. He's still a kid. He's still gross. But he does still have, he has some somewhat more adult thoughts and feelings as this is a long coming of age story for Morty. Not this episode, though. Well, I guess you could say shame is a universal emotion.
I was going to say, this one was definitely a coming of age story, but not a coming of age story.
We will leave it there. That is...
Mom, don't watch this one.
That's right. We'll leave it there for this episode of Ricksplained. My Easter egg breakdown of all the little gross details you missed in this episode will come out tomorrow. Tommy and I will be back next week to react to episode 5. Be sure to follow Tommy at Tommy Bechtold. Follow me at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to Ricksplained wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for watching. And we'll close with our favorite moment of the episode.
Rico is the father of my child.
I have an heir. I have a substance abuse problem.